So one morning, a world history teacher gave her students a pop quiz, and she asked them to list the 7 wonders of the world. After they were done and turned in their papers, she asked what they'd written. Hands went up and answers rang out. The pyramids of Egypt, the Taj Mahal, the Panama Canal, China's Great Wall, and other famous landmarks. One girl she noticed hadn't turned in her list, so she asked her why. And the teenager replied, "There's so many answers, I don't know what to say." And the teacher said, "Well, maybe we can help. Can you read your list?" The girl hesitated, and then this is what she read. To touch, to see, to taste, to feel, to laugh, and to hear, to love while we're here. These are the 7 wonders, the 7 wonderful wonders of the world. So may we engage these 7 wonders of being today as we love while we're here, and let God be God in us as we strive to do our best. And that's our topic today as we're wrapping up our series from the wisdom of Don Miguel Ruiz and his book, The 4 Agreements, A Practical Guide to Personal Freedom. So how have these practices worked for you? I see any hands, anyone that's noticed something good practicing these? Couple. I saw some wipers going. So I'm hopeful that all of us have had some insights and awareness of those false beliefs and old agreements that have come up to be released, and have practiced these tools to let them go, to make new choices. And so isn't that how we transform our lives? Choice by choice, day by day, from the inside out. So as a review, in the first agreement, Ruiz invites us to be impeccable with our word, which means observing what we tell ourselves, our internal dialogue, and the words we speak aloud to others, about our lives, about society, and to steer clear of gossip. He calls our attention to the power of the word to speak into creation what we want to create in our lives, which goes right along with our unity principle, doesn't it? Of how our thoughts and words and feelings persistently have co-creative power to shape and affect our experience of life. So one of the gifts of practicing this agreement is when we're impeccable with our word, we open more to love, to being a channel of God's love. Have you noticed that? The second agreement, don't take anything personally. Did we all get some good practice with that? I know I had several opportunities to come up higher. How about you? As Ruiz put it, I see some lights and waving, yes. As Ruiz put it, when we take something personally, we're in someone else's dream. So what someone says to you is not really about you, but them, their own perceptions, their own frame of reference, their own agreements they have made with themselves. So the gift from not taking things personally is a pause, a spaciousness to choose how we will respond, and also freedom and peace of mind, even in the midst of turmoil, to stay centered, which can help us when we're working in a group, in our families, for a win-win situation. In the third agreement, we're advised to avoid making assumptions and to ask questions. Ask. If you're not sure, ask. Because how many times has we created a whole drama based on making a faulty assumption When we see someone's look on their face, and the mind can go, uh-oh, she must be angry at me. What did I do wrong? And then spinning a whole story in our heads that's likely not even true, causing much upset. So this one is a really valuable tool to ask for clarification. So we can see how these agreements intertwine, they overlap, they work together. They also fit really well with our unity principles to help empower us to live more authentically from the truth of who we are as beloved creations of a loving Creator, meant for good. So Don Miguel Ruiz gives us insight in all the agreements, but particularly in the last one here, in the fourth agreement from the book. There is just one more agreement, but it's the one that allows the other three to become deeply ingrained habits. The fourth agreement is about action of the first three. Always do your best. And he adds, under any circumstance, always do your best. No more and no less. But keep in mind that your best is never going to be the same from one moment to the next. Everything is alive and changing all the time, so your best will sometimes be high quality and other times it will not be as good. So, doesn't it feel good to acknowledge that too? It's kind of freeing to let go of pressuring ourselves to be perfect, quotation marks, perfect every moment. Here's what Ruiz says about doing our best. That we must accept that our best changes from day to day, from hour to hour. It ebbs and flows with our mood, with our state of health, and countless other factors. And he points out that we often stress ourselves out by trying to do more than our best. Has this ever happened to you? Knocking yourself out, overextending, staying up late, getting up early, drinking Red Bull, whatever, and then feeling exhausted, frustrated, and perhaps then even resentful or angry at others for not keeping up with you. I have a friend who jokes that growing up, the sign over their front door read, "Martyrs are us." So what is the balance for giving? What is ours to give that is joyful and feels right? Not too little and not too much. I think of the Bible story. This comes to mind, the parable that Jesus tells of the Good Samaritan found in the book of Luke. And as you may remember in this story, a man had been robbed, beaten, stripped, and left by the side of the road, severely injured and near death. And two of the local religious leaders did not stop to help. And in fact, when they saw the injured man, they crossed to the other side of the road so they wouldn't have to walk past him. However, a stranger, a Samaritan, who was traveling far from home, felt moved to help. He stopped, helped the man, cleaned and bandaged his wounds, gave him something to drink, put him on his own donkey, and took him to an inn and cared for him for the rest of the day. And the next day, the Samaritan left money with the innkeeper and asked him to look after the man, and saying he'd reimburse him with any expenses when he passed back through on his trip. And then he went on his way. So there are many lessons in this parable that Jesus illustrates. One being that everyone is our neighbor, worthy of our best, worthy of our care and kindness. And so we can see the locals who give too little. In fact, they don't give at all. Contrasted with the traveler who gives a lot, as he is moved to give. So, did he give too much? When we give too much, we deplete our own energy. But please notice that he didn't do that. He didn't cancel his trip. He didn't give up his donkey, his mode of transportation. He didn't let the man move in with him. He gave from his heart what was his to give, and was blessed in the giving as the recipient was blessed. So where is the sweet spot of giving what is yours to give? No less and no more. Can you get a sense of it? Have you gotten a sense of it, even in your body, to, what feels good? Because when we give from our hearts, that giving feels good. It's life enhancing, isn't it? We have more energy when we give this way. So Ruiz reminds us too that intentionally doing less than our best leaves us feeling guilty and frustrated, like we're spinning our wheels. And that life energy has to go somewhere, that God energy has to go somewhere. So we can feel irritated when we're that life energy wants to give and we're not giving much. I remember a story about a therapist whose client was struggling emotionally, especially feeling a lack of purpose in his life. And so the client was given this prescription to each day go and sweep his elderly neighbor's porch. And the client discovered that after doing this one simple thing, this act of kindness, along with this physical action, that his spirit lifted. He was able to find joy again in his own life. So doing acts of kindness lift us and others. It's a double blessing. I know some of you are big givers, huge givers. And in our building, we had so many people giving with hospitality and greeters and setup and takedown and music and all kinds of things. And even now with our setup, we have givers. Our board here with thank you Jim Sostecki. He sets up every week what you see here and all the equipment in the car, and also our board members being greeters and platform assistants. So know that when we get back in that building, there will be space for you to give. So this is not about perfection, but about progress. And maybe the real question in regards to this practice or any other spiritual practice is, how am I doing now? Not compared to my neighbor, but where I am now and how I handle myself with difficult situations and challenges, as well as in joy and opportunity. Where am I now compared to where I was a month ago, 6 months ago, a year ago? Because it's not about comparing with anyone else with the giving. It's about doing our own personal best. I think it's also important to point out and to remind us that our best during the past year of COVID-19 lockdowns was different than in 2019 BC, before COVID, and will be different now as we re-emerge into this post-COVID world. So I invite you to be gentle with yourself in this time and with others. I've heard from some that they feel bad because they didn't really do much in 2020. There's some regret about not getting some house projects done, or feeling ashamed about putting on weight, the quarantine 15 or more, or embarrassed about hibernating or not reaching out, or even having lapses of faith and dealing with bouts of intense fear or helplessness or confusion or anger, loss of control, and then winding their way out of that complex emotional labyrinth that many of us have experienced. So if that happened to you, you are not alone. I did many laps there myself. But guess what? We did the best we could. You did your best under very trying circumstances. You coped. You persevered. You survived. You are here. Celebrate that. So if you're carrying any self-judgment about what you did or didn't do during that 2020 experience, I invite you just to let it go. Give it to God and let it go. Take a deep breath. Blowing it out, letting it go out, breathing it out of your window. To be transformed by Spirit. So when we strive to do our best, we help ourselves grow spiritually, and then we're better equipped to handle our next challenge, right? And also, it helps to have a sense of humor, to retain a sense of humor, because sometimes we absolutely do our best. And then things can still sometimes go plop. Has that ever happened to you? I'm going to end with a family story about my cousin. And she was about 11 when she was left to babysit her younger siblings for the first time. And as she tells the story, the kids were wild. They were jumping up on the couch, throwing pillows, scattering toys, pulling stuff off the shelf, screaming, yelling, running around the house, not listening to her, just tearing up the house. So she thought that one way to get them to settle down was to bribe them with some chocolate pudding that their mom had made and left in the fridge. So she got them all to sit down, and then the three younger kids were just wiggling in their seats as they watched their big sister carry this big Tupperware bowl of pudding to the table. Well, on the way there, the bowl slipped from her hand and bounced across the linoleum, plopping most of the contents in a long streak on the floor. And when she turned to pick it up, she skated in the pudding and almost fell. And she heard the giggles. And then she heard the scramble of chairs, and before she knew it, one of her brothers had dumped the rest of the bowl of pudding on the floor. And the kids began skating back and forth across the pudding floor, laughing hysterically. Sometimes things just go plop. We do our best and we learn from every experience, right? So to wrap it up with the 4 agreements, God is life and action. And action is about living fully. Waking up to our God consciousness and having the courage to create the life we want to live. From Ruiz, the best way to say I love you, God, is to live your life by doing your best. The best way to say thank you, God, is to let go of the past and live in the present moment, just as you are. To remember that you experience God just by being alive. You express your divinity by being alive and loving others. You don't need anyone's validation. You don't need to know philosophical concepts. You don't even need to know the 7 wonders of the world. Just be you and let God be God in you. So let us go to our time of meditation. So now I invite you to allow yourself to become even more relaxed, taking some slow, gentle breaths, closing your eyes if you choose, and feeling the support of your seat, knowing you are always supported by the love of Spirit. And I invite you to let these affirmations be the silent words of your very own heart. God is love. I am loving. God is love. I am loving. Divine love fills my heart to overflowing. Blessing upon blessing overflows in my life and in my world. God is wisdom. I am wise. God is wisdom. I am wise. Divine wisdom fills my mind and illumines my path in beauty, truth, love, and joy. I step through the threshold of my next experience in divine wisdom and love. God is life. I am living. God is life. I am living. Divine life flows through me in a mighty stream of divine ideas, inspired action, and sacred abundance. God's life is my life, and I vibrate with harmony and wholeness. God's life is my life, and I vibrate with harmony and wholeness. Let us rest in these truths now for a few moments in the silence. And now as we return our awareness to this place, let us return with grateful hearts and expanded joy in love's radiant presence. Thank you, God. Amen.